The passages that I just read, they are all linked together. In that particular portion of Scripture, what we see is a congregation of people, we can say a nation. We see the 12 tribes of Israel, those who have been brought out of Egypt. And God didn't just bring them out of Egypt to sit in the wilderness. As a matter of fact, he brought them out of Egypt so that they could possess an inheritance that he had for them. Not only did he have the inheritance for them, but the inheritance was prepared for them. People lived there. People had cultivated the land. People had raised the cattle. And now God is saying, I am going to send you in this place, and this is going to be yours because I am delivering this over to you. Now, those who have read this over and over, and you've listened to me teach this, you know that you can go to Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 22 in that particular area, and it let us know that Moses saying, and this saying pleased me, therefore I sent spies. What saying pleased him? The people said, we will send spies into the land to see what type of land it is. When Moses rehearses it, the people said, we'll send spies in the land to see what type of land it is. God says, okay, send spies to spy it out. But there's something that God said that should solve the whole thing. That should be the conclusion of the matter. God said to them, he said, I have delivered this land to you. Send thou men that they may search the land of Canaan, which I give unto the children of Israel. He's saying, I give it to you. He didn't say, I'm going to give it to you, but God said, I give this land to you. In other words, I have granted this to you. I have bestowed this to you. When God says that, when God says anything, it's done. You've heard it. If God says it, that settles it. The truth of the matter, it does settle it as far as God's side. But there's a part that you have if it's going to be settled with you and God. And that part is obedience. God said to Israel, if you're willing and obedient, you shall eat the good of the land. Someone was talking to me this week, and it was right on cue. Many times people speak of blessings and being blessed, but they're not looking at that which precedes blessing. That which precedes blessing is obedience. You cannot expect to be blessed from God outside of obedience. You can get things and call them a blessing all day long, but it is not something that God has bestowed upon you if you have not been obedient. Now, this is a bestowal that God desires to give them, the land, but it's going to take obedience to get it. Are you hearing me? And obedience has to do with moving. They have to move to a place. God has it. What God has given them is not here. You say, what God has for me, he'll bring it. No, there are some things that God has for you that he's not bringing to you. There are some things that God has for you, and he's saying, you go get it. And in some of the places, it can seem fairly difficult. But now I want to work with this. This was not something that was simply for an individual. I believe that we have missed out on great success and tremendous blessings from the Lord because of the fact that we have misconstrued the scripture. Can I help you with that? God said, I'm going to be the head, not the tail. God said, I'm going to be above and not beneath. God said, I'm going to be the lender and not the borrower. You with me, right? And you just throw your hands up and go all crazy, and you don't have a clue who you're going to be lending to. Who's going to be borrowing from you? Why is he just dealing with you? When he has an entire kingdom, and he can do so much more with the kingdom. Why just you? When those words were spoken to a nation, the nation of Israel. He was saying, I'm going to be above, and not, he said, the nation shall be above. Above what? Above other nations, and not beneath other nations. The nation shall be what? A lender to other nations, and not a borrower from other nations. Okay? The nation shall be the head of other nations, and not the tail of other nations. Okay? The fruit of all of those in the nation, their offspring, their cattle, everything would be blessed. That is the divine enablement. And he says, if you are willing and obedient. And so he speaks to a corporate group of people. Whenever, I want you to think about nations. There are nations that have had terrible leaders. And these terrible leaders got them into wars. And there could be people in those nations who did not want the war. But yet they have the war. And it appears as though they're winning. When in truth, the people are being heavily taxed. There's a tremendous burden. People's lifestyles are changing. And now you're running out of resources. You're running out of money. And now the enemy begins to advance against your nation. And then once the enemy advances against your nation, he breaches your borders. He tears down your walls. I'm going back some centuries, okay? They can just fly in now. He tears down your walls. He goes into the nation, rapes your daughters, rapes your wives, kills your sons, kills your husbands. Take all of your flock. Take everything that you have. Take all of your possessions. Take your gold. Take your silver. Burn down all of your buildings that are monuments. Destroys everything. But yet there were some people in that nation who did not want war, and there were some people in that nation who were innocent. You're flowing with me. So when he speaks and says, if you will hearken diligently to these words, he speaks of the blessings that shall overcome you. He's speaking to a nation. And then he says, but if you will not, then these curses will come upon you. And they can come upon a nation. Now, I want to go to us. We are a kingdom of priests, a holy nation. We just can put the United States, we're in the United States. We're citizens in the United States, but we're temporary citizens here. Our permanent citizenship is in heaven. So I want to talk about kingdom blessings here, okay? Many times we individualize things and we end up not accomplishing the purposes that God has for us because we still think in a secular way. It's us and us alone. And when I speak of us, let me just change that. It's me and me alone. And it's not us instead. And so many times we'll see a few things happen. Our life, we're working, we get promotions, whatever, that's going well. But as far as advancing the kingdom is concerned, which we're part of, there is a struggle. Why is there a struggle? There is a struggle because of the fact that we are not moving as one. When God decided to take Israel into the promised land, God gave instructions to Moses. He said, I want you to get a leader, a ruler, a leader, one who's chief from each of the tribes, a representative from each of the tribes. In other words, someone to represent all of the people. I want you to think, as I do this, I want leaders to think about what you are. You are a representation for the people that follow us. Are you hearing me in here? As I said, we're standing as one. It's not just for the people who are not leaders, it's for the leaders too. Can't do it, give me your papers. Praise the Lord. Are you with me in here? There are people who are advancing. But he says, I want you to get one from each of the, I want you, and when you get these people, what I want these leaders to do is I want them to go and they can go and spy out the land. And so Moses, we can see Moses as a great leader. If you look at the things that Moses tells him to do, as I read, I think about Moses as a great leader. Just as if you were sending out, in the military, you have what you call a scout platoon. That's not just in cowboy days. You got that now. You have to have scouts. Scouts go out before the main fighting regiment. And they go to see what's out there. They go to see the size of their enemy force. They go to see the weaponry they're using, whether they have tanks, APCs, armored personnel carriers. They go to see how many troops they have, where they're set up. Whatever it is that they can see, they go out. And then they bring back the report so that you can know what you're up against. And it's not so that you can back up out of it, But you can be well prepared, and you'll know what you need. If you need artillery, if you need tanks, if you need airplanes, if you need some warthogs, that's an A-10. They use that to just take out tanks and all. Whatever you need, okay, you can call it in because I know what they got. Now, the enemy's doing the same thing, but I'm just looking at you right now and also Israel. So these individuals will go out. And a couple people are named among these individuals, Caleb and Joshua will be named. I'm bringing them out because these are two people who apparently are faithful and trusting when it comes to God. They believe whatever God gives Moses. These are men who really meant it, apparently, when they said, all that God tells you, we will do. We know it says all the people said it, but all of them didn't move like that. But these two men apparently were like that. So they'll go out and they'll spy out the land. These individuals will come back, 12 individuals, and the report sounds good at first. Everything you said was there. It's a land flowing with milk and honey. The soil is great. Everything there is great. The cattle, all of this. And then there's this one word that negates everything. That B word that people love to use. But the Anakims are there. Amalekites are there. The Hittites are there. And they're big people. They're big. They're large. And we are but grasshoppers in their eyes. We are very small. Now, here's the thing. God says, I give this land unto the children of Israel. Not one individual, but the children of Israel. 10 spies come back and say what we cannot do. If God has said he is doing something for you, to you, or giving something to you, how does we cannot do it get in there? I'll give you a little time to think about it. God says, I'll individualize it and then corporatize it. God says, you shall inherit this. And you say, I'm not able. Because you look at all the circumstances. God says, you shall inherit this. And then a good number say, we're not able. You may not hear it in words today in the church, but in truth, the numbers are almost the same. Let me see, I would say that is 8 1/3%. 8 1/3 times 12 is 100, right? Yes, say yes, please. Okay. 8 1/3 times 12 is 100. You'd account it. That's 100, right? 1/3 of 12 is 4. 8 times 12 is 96. So 8 1/3 times 12 is 100. So if I've got 10 people coming back, 8 1/3, okay, at this particular time, what do I have? I've got about maybe 82 1/3% of the people who don't want to do it. There is a saying, oh, I'm talking to you tonight. There is a saying that the church's success is usually predicated on 20% of the people. 20% of the people. Then the rest watch, or they just come. Are you with me in here? Prayer, 20% of the people. Bible study, 20% of the people. Moving to accomplish something, 20% of the people. You hear me?